In a quiet, forgotten town, 12-year-old Emma lived in a rundown trailer with her sick mother. Life had been cruel to them, her father was gone, money was scarce, and every meal was a silent prayer. But Emma never complained. Each evening after school, she wandered into the nearby woods, scavenging for scrap metal and anything else she could sell to buy medicine and food. The woods, though cold and shadowy, became her refuge, a place where she could breathe, think, and dream. One chilly evening, with dusk painting the sky in shades of sorrow, Emma's routine took a haunting turn. As she stepped over fallen branches, her ears caught something strange, a sound too faint to be the wind. She stopped, holding her breath. Again, she heard it. A muffled cry, weak and strained, barely audible. "Help, please." Fear gripped her chest, but curiosity and compassion pushed her forward. She followed the sound, her eyes scanning the forest floor, until she noticed a pile of disturbed leaves. As she knelt down and brushed them away, her heart nearly stopped. A dirt-covered hand, trembling and reaching upward, broke through the surface. Someone was buried alive. Emma didn't scream. She didn't run. Instead, she dropped to her knees and began to dig, her small hands tearing through the cold earth. The man's face slowly emerged, bloodied, bruised, and barely conscious. His eyes met hers, filled with pain and pleading. She didn't know who he was or how he ended up there, but none of that mattered. Emma only knew one thing: he needed her. And no matter how broken her own world was, she wasn't about to let someone else be forgotten. In that moment, a poor girl became someone's miracle. And everything began to change. Emma's fingers bled as she clawed at the frozen earth, her small hands shaking from exhaustion and fear. But she didn't stop. Each handful of dirt brought the man closer to breath, closer to life. His face, when finally revealed, was a terrifying sight. Swollen, streaked with dried blood, and gagged with a torn cloth. He looked barely alive, his breath shallow, eyes flickering in and out of consciousness. Someone had meant for him to die out there. Emma didn't waste a second. She untied the cloth from his mouth, whispered calming words, and struggled to lift his upper body. He was heavy, far too heavy for a girl her size, but she pushed through the pain. Inch by inch, she dragged him across the cold forest floor, her arms burning with effort. She knew where to go, an old cabin her grandfather once used during hunting seasons. It had been abandoned for years, but she prayed it still stood. When they reached the cabin, she kicked open the door and pulled him inside. The air was freezing, dust thick, but it was shelter. Emma quickly gathered dry sticks and used the lighter she kept for emergencies. A fire flickered to life. She poured water into a tin cup and helped him sip. Then, she took off her tattered coat, wrapped him in her threadbare blanket, and placed another log on the fire. He couldn't speak yet, but his eyes followed her with quiet awe. He was a stranger, rich or poor, good or bad, she didn't know. All she saw was a human being on the edge of death. And even though Emma had nothing, not even proper shoes, she gave him all she had. In the heart of the woods, compassion had become the only warmth. The days blurred into each other as Emma cared for the stranger in the cabin, nursing him with what little she had, water from the stream, canned food she'd hidden long ago, and the steady warmth of her presence. He barely spoke at first, but slowly, his strength returned. She learned his name was Mr. Dalton, a wealthy man known in news stories but never in person. He had been kidnapped by a trusted business partner, beaten, robbed, and left buried to die, his power, his fortune, useless in that grave of silence. But Emma never treated him like a millionaire. To her, he was just a man who needed help. She sat by his side each night, humming lullabies her mother once sang, boiling snow for water, and keeping the fire alive. He watched her with quiet disbelief, unable to grasp why a child with so little would give so much. One night, the storm outside raged while the cabin glowed with firelight. Mr. Dalton, still weak, turned to her with tears in his eyes. His voice cracked as he asked, "You saved me when you had nothing. Not even shoes. Why?" Emma looked down, tugging the sleeves of her oversized sweater. "Because no one ever helped my mama when she needed it," she whispered. "And I know what being forgotten feels like." Silence filled the space between them, heavy and full of meaning. Then, Mr. Dalton reached for her hand with trembling fingers. His eyes, full of gratitude and something deeper, regret, maybe, locked with hers. "I promise," he whispered, "you'll never be forgotten again." The words hit her like a wave. She didn't understand what he meant fully, but something in his voice, something in his tears, told her life was about to change forever. She began to cry. A week after the rescue, the cabin stood quiet once more. Mr. Dalton had been airlifted away by authorities, reporters buzzed through the forest for a day, and then, nothing. Emma returned to her routine, walking the same paths, collecting scraps, her heart unsure if what had happened was real or just a strange dream. Her mother's cough had worsened, and bills piled up like shadows on their small table. But still, Emma hoped. Then, one cold morning, a black car pulled up outside their trailer. A man in a suit stepped out, holding a thick envelope. "Are you Emma?" he asked. She nodded, confused, clutching the edge of the doorway. He handed her the envelope, tipped his hat, and left without another word. Inside was a letter, written in careful, trembling handwriting she recognized instantly. "Dear Emma. Your kindness gave me back my life. Now let me give you yours. Enclosed is the deed to a new home where you and your mother can live safely, with a team ready to care for her. There's also a fund, enough for her treatment, your education, and whatever dreams you dare to chase. You reminded me of something money had made me forget, what it means to care without expecting anything back. Thank you for reminding me what humanity looks like. Mr. Dalton." Emma's hands trembled as she unfolded the second page. It was a property deed. Below it, a check with more zeros than she had ever imagined. For a moment, the world stood still. Then, for the first time in years, she cried, not out of fear or pain, but from something new, hope. A whisper in the woods had become a miracle. Years passed, and the pain of Emma's childhood became the fuel for her purpose. With the gift Mr. Dalton gave her, she didn't just rebuild her life, she built a haven for others. In the heart of the same town that once forgot her, Emma opened a place called Whispers of Hope, a rescue center for lost children, the homeless, and anyone who felt invisible. The center became more than just shelter. It was warmth, food, love, given freely, the way she once gave it to a stranger in the woods. Walls were painted with bright colors, laughter echoed through halls once silent, and every room held a story of someone who had been seen, heard, and saved. Emma never bragged. But when asked why she started it all, she would sit with the children, smile gently, and tell them the story of a broken man buried alive in silence, and a little girl who found him not with strength, but with heart. "I didn't have anything," she'd say, "but I had ears to listen and hands to help. And sometimes, that's all it takes." She never forgot Mr. Dalton. His whisper had changed her life. But her act of kindness had changed his first. And so the cycle continued. One act of compassion leading to another. One whisper becoming a roar of hope. Sometimes, it only takes one moment. One choice. One child. One act of kindness, to unearth a miracle.